Logan Mwangi murder. What should happen to children who kill? There's no more heinous crime than the murder of a young child. Taking the life of a small innocent boy or girl seems unfathomable because it's often in human nature to want to protect and care for children, not harm them. It's even more terrifying when the person who killed the child is a family member. Hey viewers, welcome back to Crime Point. Today we'll discuss Logan Mwangi's murder and what should happen to children who kill. Are you guys excited? So without any delay, let's dive into the video. But before that, please hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel so you get every single update from our channel. Logan Mwangi was a child who lived in South Wales and was killed by his mother, stepfather, and stepbrother in the days leading up to July 31st, 2021. Logan was only 5 years old at the time of his death. It's difficult to determine the specific nature of the events that led up to the terrifying death of the boy, but Angharad Williamson, Logan's mother, John Cole, Logan's stepfather, and Craig Mulligan, Logan's stepbrother, are all believed to have participated in or been aware of physical attacks on Logan in late July. These attacks resulted in Logan sustaining severe external and internal injuries. The mother and stepfather have been sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of the murder of Logan Mwangi, who was only 5 years old at the time of his death. Logan died after being subjected to months of severe physical abuse and being held captive in the dungeon of his cramped, dimly lit bedroom. Angharad Williamson, Logan's mother, was informed that she will have to serve a minimum of 28 years in prison before being considered for parole, whereas John Cole, her partner, will have to serve a minimum of 29 years in prison. A second juvenile, age 14, who was also found guilty of murdering Logan, was informed that he will be incarcerated for a minimum of 15 years. But now the question is, this is how we should deal with a child who committed murder? A campaign has started that has said there needs to be a complete shift in the way that we deal with children who commit murder. According to Dr. Bateman, the chair of the National Association for Youth Justice, Mulligan would not have been brought before court in many other countries around the world due to the fact that his age would prevent him from being prosecuted for any crime. The age at which children are considered to be legally responsible for their actions varies from country to country in Europe, starting at 10 years old in Wales and England, and progressing up to 14 years old in Germany, 15 years old in Netherlands, and 16 years old in Portugal. John Venables and Robert Thompson, the 10-year-olds who abducted, tortured, and murdered 2-year-old James Bulger in 1993, are the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history. They were sentenced to life in prison, but were released on parole with new identities in 2001. Sil J. Riedergaard, age 5, was beaten by two 6-year-old boys and left to die in the snow in Trondheim, Norway, a year after James was murdered. In Norway, however, no children under the age of 15 are prosecuted, and Sil J's killers were left with their families, assisted by psychiatrists and social workers, and returned to kindergarten within a week. Lawrence Lee, the solicitor who represented Venables, said of the public outrage that followed James's murder, "I don't think society could get their heads around how this kind of thing could happen. The scenes outside the court where people threw bricks at the prison van," he said, "would live with me forever." When asked if he believed children should be held accountable for crimes such as murder, he said, "Yes, I think nowadays more and more." Children today are much more aware. They are so aware of their rights. Many children are so streetwise that they purposefully hide behind the veil of anonymity, knowing they will not be identified. He believes it's appropriate to try children in court. There's no way these defendants can go free, and they have to be punished, but they also have to be educated if that's possible, he says. Mr. Bateman believes that if Venables and Thompson had been a few months younger, they would have not faced prosecution, but would have been taken into care and placed into a secure children's home for an extended period of time until they were deemed safe to be released back into the community. The same thing would have happened if we hadn't gone through the criminal justice system, he said. It is possible to avoid the negative connotations of criminal conviction and media identification. We have a rather peculiar situation in England and Wales in terms of children who commit murder, Dr. Bateman explained. For example, consider smoking. An adult can choose whether or not they want to smoke, if they want to harm their health, but we don't take that view in relation to children who can't buy tobacco until the age of 18 because we don't regard them as fully responsible. They can't be trusted to consider the long-term implications. When children break the law, those assumptions are thrown out the window and we suddenly attribute full responsibility to them. Dr. Bateman stated that he would like to see a complete shift in the way that we deal with children who commit murder, including their release, while there are still plenty of opportunities for them to make the transition to adulthood in a relatively normalized environment. We are one of the only European countries that have an instantaneous life sentence for children who commit murder, he said. Detention during Her Majesty's pleasure is a required life sentence imposed when a child or adolescent is found guilty of murder or pleads guilty to it. The starting point for determining the minimum sentence for those under the age of 18 is 12 years old, and those over the age of 18, it is 15 years old. I'd like to see a much shorter max sentence available for children, as is the case in many other parts of the world, he said. Mr. Lee, on the other hand, believes in the current system. We should trust the parole panel that they will not discharge that child until they are fit for return to society, he says. If they are released too soon and reoffend, there could be serious consequences. While it is for independent judges to start deciding sentences, we have made it legal for children who murder people so that judges have a range of reference places that account for the child's age and the severity of the murder, a Ministry of Justice spokesperson said. Judge Mrs. Justice Jefford granted anonymity to the 14-year-old defendant in the Logan Mwangi murder trial under Section 45 of the Youth Justice and Criminal Evidence Act. However, the media challenged these restrictions at sentencing, and the judge lifted the order, allowing him to be identified as Mulligan for the first time on Thursday. During the trial of Venables and Thompson, the judge lifted reporting restrictions, stating that the public interest outweighed the defendant's interest. When they were released on license in 2001, they were given new identities and lifelong anonymity. A court order prohibited anyone from disclosing their new identities. A judge lifted reporting restrictions in 2015 on the naming of a 15-year-old boy who murdered Leeds teacher Ann McGuire. Identifying Will Cornick was in the public interest, according to Mr. Justice Colson, and would have been a clear deterrent effect. The fact that we can identify children is something that is out of step internationally, Dr. Bateman said. He believes that naming could incite vigilantism not only against the child defendant, but also against their siblings in the wider community. If they wake up and see their picture on the front page of the newspaper as a child murderer, that will have a significant impact on their development, he said. The way that they see themselves, in my opinion, is likely to increase the risk that they will continue to be a danger to others. Employers will be much less likely to offer opportunities to children who have been all over the front pages of the newspapers, and colleges will be much less likely to offer places to such children, he said, after they are released. Dr. Bateman said it would be difficult for Mulligan to live a normal life. It'll be difficult to come of age, to transition to adulthood in a custodial institution without spending your time, as most adolescents does, learning how to deal with the outside world, learning how to be an adult. Mr. Lee's more optimistic. It depends on whether they're labeled evil or not, he says. If he's kept in custody for 10 years, unless he has the opportunity of dipping his toe into real everyday life, I think his chances of being normal again are very slim. So for now, I think we're at the end of today's video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please make sure to give our video a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and press the bell icon too. That way, you never miss any updates. If you have any questions or comments on your mind for us, make sure you let us know in the comment box down below. Remember, we always check on, and we always love to hear from you, our viewers. Make sure you check out our channel for other videos where you will find other really cool stuff. We thank you for spending time out of your very busy day with us today, and we appreciate you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next video.